It's Wednesday, February 24th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, Planetess, the manga.
Let's do this.
Yeah, sorry we missed the Monday show, but, I work on Wall Street, and it's one of those weird industries where they'll spend millions and millions of dollars to shave microseconds off of, like, some internal nonsense and some
Well, won't
code.
that result in more than millions being made from those microseconds being saved?
Theoretically.
In the long run?
Maybe. It's actually kind of dubious value. I mean, I don't want to get... It's not a Monday show.
I'm also dubious, but they believe that is what I'm saying.
But they push the envelopes of technology in these realms, and yet it's all old men who really won't use things like cell phones or video conferences or Skype. So I literally flew to Orange County to have 1 hour-and-a-half meeting, and then I flew home.
Why didn't you just call them on the phone or video conference?
That's what I would have done, being a young man. But it's an old man's game, and I was flown first class both ways to have 1.5 hour meeting with 3 people who I could have easily just had a G-chat with to cover what we talked about.
Was one of those people like insistent that you physically be there and all grumpy?
The industry was insistent that I'd be there.
But if you just asked the 3 people, be like, hey, would you have been upset if I had video conferenced instead of come here? What would they have said?
I don't know, really, because I didn't even arrange any of this. This was all arranged for me while I was
But
at
you didn't
MagFest.
ask them when you got there?
No, because I didn't really care that much.
What kind of people were they? Were they old people?
Older than me, but not that much older.
Right. I mean, it's like, so did they seem like grumpy? And
They were not grumpy when we were meeting.
right. So, I'm sure they were reasonable if you would just talk to them.
Oh, yeah. But also it's partly that...
Did you make as much enough money off of them to pay for the plane tickets?
I have no idea. I guess what's weird is my company seems to treat me like if they just put me face-to-face in front of people, then they start making more money, no matter what. So they increasingly fly me around to do shit like that, and I guess it's working for them.
Well, here's the thing. The people live in California, right?
No, Scott. So here's the deal.
Wouldn't it be better to convince them by flying them to New York?
They don't want to come to New York, so here's the deal.
Well, wait a minute.
Scott,
who doesn't want to come to New York?
Scott, have you ever visited Orange County, like southeast of LA, like along the coast? Like,
isn't it? It's just mansions and private beaches.
So the deal
and
is
roads
there's a bunch of big companies there that have offices. The idea being that if you work for them, you live right next to the offices in like Orange County.
I didn't think there was anywhere to put an office there because it was just mansion, 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 road, mansion, road, mansion,
There
road.
are so many office parks everywhere there. In fact, office space there is cheaper than in New York if you want a good building.
Okay.
So, a lot of people will put companies there because everyone wants to live in a place where it's always 76 degrees.
Mm-hmm. I just don't want to live in a place that's always 76 degrees and everything's roads.
Yeah, there is no Venn diagram that covers that.
All the people near me are Orange County people.
They're all pretty chill, I imagine. I mean, they just surf all day, I guess.
They're not New York people.
Yeah, New York people are generally kind of aggro.
If I fall down on the side of the road and hurt myself, they're all just going to walk by, maybe spit on me or some shit. Right?
New York, they'll stop to help you, but only if you don't look like a hobo. If you look like a hobo, they will just walk by. They won't spit on you, but they will pretend they did not see you.
As it should be.
I watched some motherfucker today, an ambulance, full lights and sirens, was blazing down the road trying to get through a crosswalk. This motherfucker looking right at it still walked out in front of it and blocked it because he had the right of way.
Why didn't the ambulance hit him?
Because that might have been inconvenient, I guess.
They could have just hit him, put him in the back, and kept going, and then picked up the other person.
Crazy ambulance.
Sounds like a video game to me.
So anyway, you got any animation or comic news? It being Wednesday Geek Nights, the hardest Geek Nights to do because we don't watch anime every day anymore.
I mean, it's really hard to find any anime comic news going on right now. It's the quiet times as the slow build up. The beginning of the year is always the quietest, right? This stuff, the only thing that comes up early in the year for comics or animation or anything is like you get a lot of festivals, right? Because like the children's animation festival's coming. But the children's film festival's coming, but that's all stuff that's like done already, right?
Well, we've
We're
also
just getting
already
to see it.
we've already talked about how we're going on Friday to see the premiere and everything.
Right. So that's a Wednesday episode for 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
No problem. But people are saving stuff for like Comic-Con in the summer and Free Comic Book Day. You don't get too much, right?
Yeah, but I got a bunch of minor news, but it's the kind of news where I have nothing to say about it other than, yeah, do you read the same websites I do? Yeah, we both know the same headline.
Right, so I got two really minor newses. Pretty much this exists and this exists, right? So the first thing that exists, here's a book coming out in Japanese that did not exist before, and the book is How to Draw Like Ryuichi Ikigami.
Oh, man, it's just going to be a whole tutorial on how to make someone who's looking down but then somehow looking up at you and smoldering.
Right.
It's nothing but that. It's just guys looking down but then looking up.
The other thing that exists is one of favorite artists of GeekNights, Lamar Abrams, who also works on Steven Universe, and he made Remake, which is the Astro Boy parody thing. Remember?
Oh yeah, asshole Astro Boy.
Right. So Lamar Abrams has a new comic, which is a Dragon Quest inspired comic. I imagine it's like the remake is to Astro Boy as Endless World is to Dragon Quest, and you can get it for $3 on his Gumroad, which is, I guess, a website where you can sell your little indie comic. So $3. I mean, that's less than a bacon, egg, and cheese, and you'll probably be, if you know anything about Dragon Quest, you'll probably be laughing big time. So his Tumblr is neo dash rama rama.tumblr. So you can, or I'm sure you can find it on Gumroad if you just search for, I guess, Endless World or Lamar Abrams. So there you go. Two things that exist that you can buy in the near future that are things you probably wouldn't know about just reading the normal newses.
So there's another thing that you have 3 hours as of when we're doing the show, so you might already miss it unless you listen to Geek Nights immediately.
That's a shame.
But so this is a Kickstarter with a bunch of really top-notch artists, and this is not the first Smut Peddler Kickstarter.
Yeah, I've seen Smut Peddlers before, and I've neglected to buy them only because I figured I'll be able to get a copy of that somewhere else and read it.
Now it's one of those things where I'm not necessarily a huge fan of pornography, but I am a fan of erotica, or at least the idea that I'd like there to be more erotica in public culture and less traditional shitty pornography.
See, I'm more, I mean, I guess some sort of the same idea, right? I actually like erotica pornography, but I only like certain kinds, and those are the rarest kinds.
Yeah.
I really strongly dislike the very common kind that, is
Robbie D.
Yes. The kind where it's like, someone with giant fake boobs and people,
and a dick just going pa-bam, pa-bam, pa-bam.
Right. Or
yeah, that sounds great.
I like stuff like, you read something like, what was the thing Alan Moore did? Lost Girls or whatever, right? You get, or, Ogloff, I guess, isn't really porn, even though it is highly mature rated. You can't fap to that.
Ogloff
right?
is so Ogloff occasionally has erotic elements, like the whole story with the Snow Queen. That was hot. Not gonna pretend it wasn't.
I've never been turned on by Ogloff.
Not by the Snow Queen story?
No.
Not even?
Not really.
Not even?
No.
Well, now's your chance to be turned on by Ogloff.
In fact, the Snow Queen story was rather chilling. It had an opposite effect. It was like, oh shit, son. Oh, hell no. Get that away from me.
So, the Smut Peddler doubleheader has 2 projects. You can back one, or you basically get one or both within it. One of them is a Monster Boys anthology with an all-star who's who of artists. But the reason I'm bringing this to your attention, the reason I went from that's cool to I'm backing it, is that the entity that does Ogloff has a short comic in it. And the
you won't be
Kickstarter
able to
page,
read it anywhere else unless you buy this?
I don't think so.
And you got to read anything that Bodelson
Yeah,
makes?
because this stuff, as best I can tell, it's a vampire who gets involved with a girl who is a fan of vampires.
Uh-oh.
And this one page of it that is previewed on the Kickstarter, it looks pretty great. So, you probably missed it by the time you listen to Geek Nights. But
I'm sure you can get this from non-Kickstarter sources.
And, well, we go to a lot of conventions, so we don't really do news about every convention these days. Like, at MagFest, it's not a lot of reviews.
Most conventions, at least anime comic conventions, their news doesn't happen. And even if news does happen, it's just comic book company announces something. Usually these days, it's Hollywood company announces something, and we don't give any shits. Look at all the fucks Barrenfield.
Well, also, we only actually go to one anime convention every year now, at most. It's either 1 or 0, and Anime Boston is it. So we avoid Katsucon partly because after the staff turnover and everything many years ago when they moved into the Gaylord.
It used to be a hot... You can go back and listen to GeekNights is about Katsucon and learn the story of how it was a hot con and then the staff turned over and then we didn't go anymore.
Yep, and it's a bad con now. Like the panel policy, they basically have this whole nonsense where if you want to be a panelist, you have to pay for a panelist badge that costs like $40 for the privilege of doing a panel. So if you've already got some other badge, you also have to pay for the $40 panelist badge or you can't run a panel.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically don't really reimburse a lot of the talent that they have. It's a mess of a convention. So we obviously don't go. But something was making the rounds on the internet, a bunch of photos of how fans at Katsucon, Anime Kid attendees, trashed the hotel.
Well, I mean, anytime you put, young high school teenagers, early 20s people into a hotel with limited or no supervision from adults or any kind of authority other than, police who aren't paying attention because no one's committing any serious crimes, that kind of shit happens.
Yeah, but
when I was that age, I often went to hotels with and other things of that nature, and shit went down.
Now, it's interesting from a bunch of angles because, for one, there's all these articles about, oh my God, Katsucon damage, blah, 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 but it's the same 4 photos in every one of those damage reports. There's just 4. Now, it's pretty It basically shows a hotel room that was flooded with what looks like a foot or 2 of water.
Right.
And someone wrote Katsucon all over the inside of one bathroom stall, and I guess someone punched a hole in a wall. It's not clear whether or not the punched hole, might have been a door, was in the same room that had the flood or if it was an unrelated room.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to me that the fan media sort of flipped out about this Katsucon thing because you find pictures of that kind of damage from most anime cons if you look at all in the forums or on Twitter. This didn't even look particularly bad compared to other anime cons that I've seen damage at.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting that the nerd media sort of really picked up on it. But at the same time, I have heard rumors that are little more than complete nonsense. They've made it around through some reasonably reliable sources that the Gaylord, that the place that Katsucon is hosted, might actually be talking to them to either not let them return or raising the prices of their room blocks because of a trend of damage that's increasing over the years.
You're sort of self-fulfilling your prophecy by discussing and promoting this, the fact that this happened, and saying, guys, it's like you're making a bigger deal out of it than it is, and the hotel sees that.
Oh, true. But at the same
time... You're basically
time,
amplifying your bad reputation. You should be doing a cover-up is what you should be doing.
Nah, cover-up, but so we'll get to that, why the cover-up doesn't work. So
you can cover it up.
But what's real interesting also is that I was doing some informal surveys by going to a bunch of AnimeCon websites and checking out what the con rate is for local hotels. AnimeCon hotel rooms are often way more expensive than gaming con hotel rooms in similar areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if the expected damage from kids at anime cons is actually higher. I mean, this is all conjecture, but I'm pretty sure anime cons have way more people crammed into hotel rooms than your average PAX or MagFest.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because it's mostly younger kids going.
The hotels aren't stupid, right? And you think even if you go to a hotel, anyone you interact with there might not know what the hell is going on, right? You can be sure the people who negotiate the events at the hotel, who negotiated with the convention, and the managers of the hotel as a whole, they're the person who's setting the prices on these things. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? They're not dum-dums, even if the concierge is like, oh, why is everyone dressed up? What the hell's going on? Right?
I mean, I saw a story.
There's only 2 people that have to know what the hell's going on, and they know. There's enough anime cons, there's enough hotels. The con has been coming to the hotel for enough years, right?
I saw a story that linked to a forum thread in an unnamed large anime convention where someone was basically talking about how, it's bullshit that the hotels, make sure everyone has a room key before they let them up into the guest floors, and, they're really strict about 4 people in the room.
They're allowed to do that. In fact...
No. What I'm getting at is that hotels don't give a fuck except during the anime con. Go to that same hotel the next weekend, the room will be cheaper, and they don't care if you have 10 people in the room.
I could just walk into there's a Marriott, there's all kinds of hotels right near my work, Manhattan hotels, right? I could walk into the Sheraton near my office and just go up to an elevator, push the button, get in, and go to any floor I want, pretty much.
Now,
and no one's going to stop me or look at me or question me whether I got a room key, whether I got luggage, whether I got anything.
So I realized reading
I
through
wouldn't
this
be able to get
thread-
into any doors on that floor because I don't have a room key unless I broke
But
in.
I realized reading through this, well, a lot of hotels in New York, you can't use the elevator without swiping a floor
Sometimes,
key.
usually the hour of the day, they turn that on and off. Right?
But, or if it's near a place where like tourists are wandering
Right, but
in.
especially like if they have a floor, for example, that has like ballrooms, you can usually just go right to that floor on an escalator or something.
But what I'm getting at is that a lot of anime con attendees sort of assume that hotels are always like that because they only go to anime cons. Guys, the hotels only do that because you're there. You specifically. Those rules are basically only in place because they know what you're up to. They know you're trying to sneak 8 more people into your room. They know you're going to clog the stupid sink with your cosplay nonsense and cause a flood. They're keeping an eye on you for a reason. So if you think you can cover it up, my actual news, this really made the rounds a while ago, but it's made the rounds again thanks to the Katsukan story, is basically a takedown of what happened to a moderately sized furry convention, Rainforest, that sort of...
That's a great name, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Rainforest. Good job.
Sort of did try to cover up the fact that over the years, like this is someone who worked on the staff. Like,
yeah, this was
board.
like the person who was like on the board or the chairman or, you know, someone who was a big, important person who worked on the convention, wrote this amazing, eloquent write-up of exactly what went down step by step. And I'm believing everything they say based entirely on the quality of their write-up. And anyone who can write a write-up that quality must be intelligent and therefore is probably not the wrongdoer.
But the gist of it is that the cons have data about how much damage happens because that's something you get from your liaison. And what happened at Rainforest was the amount of property damage that happened at the hotel had grown like statistically significantly year over year. And rather than do anything about it, they basically never said anything publicly and pretended it wasn't happening. And eventually, they basically got blackballed from any hotel on the West Coast. So this could happen to you. It's also kind of the final point about all this is I want to remind you of a thread that was in the Otakon forums many, many, many years ago. It's long gone because they've like redone the forums and everything. But it was a bunch of people at Otakon complaining and freaking out and wanting to call the police because they rented hotel rooms, but then the hotel ripped them off and charged them a bunch of extra money. And I shit you not, the result of the investigation was taxes, guys. You have to pay taxes on hotel rooms. You clearly didn't know that.
Nope. I mean, didn't even look at the invoice and see that it said the extra money was taxes?
Thus, that is the average AnimeCon attendee dealing with hotels. So AnimeCon attendees are worried that the rates of the hotel rooms and the hotel blocks are going to go up at their conventions because of this kind of damage. And luckily for you, that's not really the case. The rates are going up because there aren't other hotels. You guys don't make the money. None of you have corporate expense accounts. None of you are getting room service. So if the average attendee of your convention is under the age of like 25, the hotel has no incentive to give you any discount. You're lucky if they give you a room block because they don't have to. What are you going to do? Go to another convention center? Good
Where?
luck.
Which one?
Yeah. Be like the Gaylord, name another convention center that big anywhere on the East Coast. The BCEC,
And then
BCC.
the place Otakon's moving to?
Yeah, there aren't that many. Look at PAX. They already use every hotel. Like, every hotel. There aren't more hotels. So if every hotel is going to sell out no matter what, why would a hotel give you $200 off a night? Why don't
The
they just
demand exceeds the supply. End of story.
And that will never be fixed. There is no incentive to build more hotels because your gaming
Until we
con-
invent the teleporter and make the hotel obsolete.
Yep. But then conventions might also be obsolete. Conventions are, hey guys, let's all show up in this one place at this one time tomorrow.
Yes,
Bam.
this awesome empty hotel.
Yeah, Hyperion's going to be like that.
Paintball time.
So I would just suggest because all these issues, like I even searched around, I could not find equivalent like damage concerns or damage reports or photos or anything from MagFest. And MagFest was in the same hotel as Katsukan the weekend after it. And I suspect, I do not know anything inside, but I suspect for real, there is way less damage to the Gaylord after MagFest, despite the fact that it's a bunch of drunk 30-year-olds wandering around super drunk.
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll find out.
We didn't go anywhere where there would have been damage to see it.
Yeah, but I also, I poked around and couldn't find, any similar Twitter tweets of, hey, check this shit out, like happened at Katsucon.
Anyway.
Things of the day. You got a thing of the day?
You know that phenomenon where you hear a new word or a new concept and then you start hearing it everywhere? What's the name of that? It keeps happening a lot.
Like you see a bear shit in the woods once and then
Yes,
just bears
exactly,
everywhere?
exactly.
I don't remember.
So, on my Spotify Discover weekly playlist, I heard this song and I was like, wow, this song, wow, whoa, wow. That's like a new thing, whoa. So I went to search for it. And in searching for it, I discovered that it is from a musical micro-genre known as Vaporwave. And then since I saw this...
Vaporwave, is that like Spookwave?
So since I heard this word, I've heard it like 100 times. There was even we were even playing a board game, and one of the characters had like funny hair on one of the like cards. Oh, it was one of the treasures in the digging game. And Anthony kept referring to that treasure as Vaporwave. And it's like this thing that I just discovered on my own. And I think even Chase mentioned it to me like on the bus. He was like following like a Vaporwave Facebook
one could say that there is a Vaporwave wave.
I don't know. But since I heard this one song and saw this Wikipedia page, I've been hearing it everywhere. So according to Wikipedia, Vaporwave is a musical microgenre that emerged in the early 2010s among internet communities. It is characterized by a nostalgic fascination with retro, cultural, aesthetic, video games, technology, and advertising. Often involves the fusion of modern popular music with lounge, smooth jazz, and elevator music, and sampling is very prevalent, etc., etc.
I'm already dubious that it is that distinctive a genre from what you described.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, there's certain like Daft Punk tracks that it sounds like, and it's like every Vaporwave track that I hear is pretty different from the others and sounds really similar to a track I heard in another genre somewhere else. But they sort of also all have something in common, so it's almost like it's not its own genre, but like, you know, this sort of space that like another song can fit into, and like just because you made a playlist of songs from different places that have a thing in common, does that make a new genre or not? I don't know, but all I know is that this is the music that you would listen to in like, you know, cyberpunk land, and so I like this music. So the song in particular that I heard on Spotify was from an album entitled Cham, C-H-A-M, by a group named Macross 82-99.
Already up my alley.
And the art on the album is like incredible. And they have a Bandcamp here. They also have a SoundCloud and a Spotify, of course, right? Where you can hear, and YouTube. You can hear this music anywhere. And the hot song, what was the name of the hot song that I heard?
Oh, you wanted me to, it was I Miss You.
Yeah.
On the Cham,
featuring someone else. So that was the song that Spotify put in my Discover playlist that made me go like, whoa. And that also happens to be the best song I've heard from them so far. So it shows you the power of Spotify Discover playlist.
Yeah. So I was going to do a really good Lieutenant AMV that I found as my thing of the day, but Scott and Emily both think my things of the day are bullshit.
They are. Your things of the day are not good.
So I decided that I really have to double down on my things of the day. And I'm bringing out... So you know how there's those novelty Twitter accounts like Just a Bear, and they're like pretty good. Like I'm a bear, they sort of role play, or like the Andrew Jackson account, a toy Twitter account. I mean, I run the Quiblo 40s account, but not that many people follow it. So, but of all of those, this is a novelty Twitter account that is both really up my particular alley and also actually legit funny in its own way. Retweet your skeleton. Hit us with your skeletons. No flesh, only skeletons, please. And I'd seen this retweeted occasionally, but I followed it when I saw this particular tweet, and I laughed out loud in the office so hard that people came over to see what the hell I was looking at.
It's just a skeleton on the floor.
You gotta look up close. It's a skeleton at a grocery store laying like it fell from a great height, surrounded by a sea of broken beer bottles.
Okay.
So I highly recommend that you follow this Twitter account because I get endless amusement from it.
Okay. You're continuing.
Skeletons.
You're continuing your trend of not that great things of the day.
I mean, look at this. Here is a skeleton riding a little hamster. Like someone put a little hamster down and had a skeleton on it. Okay. Riding it like a jockey. These are good skeletons. In the meta moment, we were just at MagFest. We were on like 7 goddamn panels. And video of some of them will appear as we feel like getting it together. Geek Nights Presents Utena, episode 14, was uploaded a while ago. Any of you who complained to me that it was taken down due to copyright, it is, as of Dateline 6:23 p.m. today, back up, and I think I fought off...
Didn't we already record 15?
Yeah, we recorded the video of 15. I have to edit 15.
Yeah.
Editing takes a while for these things for obvious reasons.
Let's make 16.
I
I gotta know what happens.
However,
Because I don't know what happens next.
I do have my Shuttle Pro V2 knob, and let me tell you, it cut about 40% of the editing time off based on my previous experience editing these videos together. Our next convention is coming up. Stay tuned for maybe Anime Boston. Definitely PAX East. We're at least doing Atari game design. PAX Prime, I'm assuming we'll be doing a bunch of stuff. Kineticon, Zenkai-Con, we got a bunch of panels, etc.
It's con season.
It is, but at least we're past the deepest con season. We've got kind of a lull. I don't think we have anything the rest
PAX
of...
East, maybe Anime Boston, Zenkai. It's 3 cons.
Yeah, that's not
Also,
that...
the Manga Festival is the same weekend as Zenkai-Con. I just found this out like 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
So there you go.
Oh, yeah, and if you don't listen to the end of the show after the credits, you probably should. There's
No,
been
you
stuff
shouldn't.
back there.
Don't.
For many months now, there's been stuff after the credits.
Don't do that.
So, Planetest, there was the anime that you watched most of, right?
Right, so this is something that came out. It doesn't feel that old, but this came out when we were in our college days, like
yeah,
early 2000s.
like Emily had.
I remember it being on the shelf in that media play.
Emily had some DVDs that I don't remember if she got them to Scott Johnson or if we gave them to Scott Johnson, but he was involved.
It was an
in some
anime
fashion.
and a manga. I'm pretty sure the manga came first, but the anime came first to the US at least, and then the manga. But recently, the manga has been reprinted in an omnibus format of much larger volumes and not a bunch of small Tokyo Pop crap volumes.
Yeah, like large enough volume to where a whole arc gets told in volume 1.
Right. So, you know, if this is something you're interested in reading, now is the time to acquire these large and less expensive volumes to get more manga for your dollar.
Now, these DVDs that we had were so fucking bootleg that I remember I
watched, digital fan subs when I watched not all of the anime, but most of it.
How far did you get in the anime?
I don't remember. It was in the early 2000s.
It's only a 1-season show. It's
maybe
like 26
half
episodes.
at most half.
I saw 2 episodes.
Okay.
And then the bootleg DVDs we had degenerated into Cyrillic nonsense and were fake as far as I could tell. Like, there just weren't subtitles anymore.
Right,
So
I bought the
it.
first of these volumes, and it was the only comic I had that I could grab quickly and convince Rim to read easily.
Makoto Yukimura is the author of this manga.
Right. So I did so. So what is Planetest? Planetest is a hard science fiction manga in space. So it's about astronauts, but these astronauts, it's in the future, but it's hard science fiction in that there's nothing fantastic or unrealistic, but it's still in the future, so it's not like it's 100% hard. It's just like 90% hard, right?
Yeah, I would take like a little bit of the Pat Labor sort of character dynamic, but pull it way back, and then take Space Brothers.
Pat Labor is more fantastical than...
Yeah, but in terms of like the
and
characters...
Space Brothers is less fantastical.
But I'm saying in terms of the characters within this hard sci-fi universe, like the way they interact with each other.
Yeah, Pat Labor crew in his Space Brothers world with a little bit less realistic.
That's basically how I would describe this manga.
Yeah, kind of. So
it's about the less glamorous parts of space.
Right. So their job is in space, when everyone's traveling in space, there's a bunch of space debris. I mean, this is a problem we have now, space junk, right? There's a whole group of, there's a whole like division that monitors space trash, right? And because if you're in space, like a screw that got loose from a satellite or something could be orbiting the Earth really, really quickly. And it's just a little screw. But if it hits your spaceship going really, really fast and your spaceship is just sitting still, this thing that there was no way you could see or avoid could just destroy you by poking a hole in your spaceship. So, in the future, when there's a bunch of people going to space, you need to have people who will go and clean up space junk. And that's what these people do, these characters.
Yeah, so it's sort of, it has this sort of overall, not really moral, but theme that space is awesome and it's the frontier of humanity. But at the same time,
it's really dangerous.
Space sucks and humans really aren't designed to deal with space.
Right. But also, I think the best message of Planetest is that, if you're standing on the surface of the Earth,
you're still in space.
You're in space. Right? Everywhere is in space.
Wait, way to spoil the end of this first volume.
No matter where you are, you're in outer space.
God or the cat or whatever told us that in the end. So
Yep.
yeah.
So this manga is it's not the greatest, right? It's it's okay.
I mean, so I didn't really have all the names of the characters straight.
I don't know them at all.
End.
I forgot them all.
Fee is the smoker, I think.
Okay.
But she's not she's one of the best characters, and she's basically not in it after the very beginning.
I think you're gonna get. So the thing is, I think the thing that hurts this compared to say a Space Brothers is in the Space Brothers, you're clearly focusing on the brother who's not as good at space as the brother who's already getting ready to go to space, right? He's the main character. In Planet Test, there isn't really a main character. You have this crew, and everyone's getting equal focus relatively. Even in Patlabor, where all the characters kind of get focus, right? The main girl gets more focus.
What's his name? The guy who kind of wants to die but won't admit it is basically the focus of the majority of this volume as a whole. In the beginning.
You mean the one who wants to go on the special mission?
Yeah, the one who goes
to
Jupiter. Like, getting around the second half, it's
he does get
him.
a little bit more focus than the others.
Dude, if you count just the second half, it's like 80% focus on him.
Yeah, the second half. But in the first half, it's like, there's the guy whose wife died, right?
Yep, there's the girl who smokes and is loud,
right?
And then
you get the new person who comes in. Clearly, they're going to get some time, right? It's like there isn't really this like main focus, and while, the characters are kind of cool, like, none of them really are cool enough to,
part of that
make you care about them a whole bunch.
Might come from the fact that it's presented as a series of vignettes that are linked, so it's not a straight linear narrative like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's like, it always kind of starts in media res in the middle of like, well, how did it come to this? And then it sort of just, every story sort of peters out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they start in the middle of some drama, it sort of reaches a climax, but then it keeps going a little longer, and then just kind of peters out, and then the next story starts.
And then this, as the plot progresses, not all the characters are still working on the junk collecting ship, right? Like, the guy's training to go on this mission. But meanwhile, somehow they're always together with each other. They always like meet in space constantly. Are they like always at the same space station, or are they always at like the same moon base or wherever the hell they are?
Yeah, the setting is actually, and at least if you read this volume, softer than you'd think for something that's otherwise pretty hard sci-fi, or at least trying to be hard sci-fi. Because the setting's sort of fast and loose. Like, there's those terrorists, and we have sufficient technology to have this like spacefaring humanity, and yet like there aren't cameras to catch this dude just like with a fucking briefcase bomb and a trench coat.
Right, especially going into space. Like, how did
there's
he get into
gunfights
space?
everywhere with these terrorists, and yet somehow that like today we have technology that can pinpoint when a gun went off.
And then meanwhile, while the space technology is very far advanced, and like even the kid's little brother who's like building rockets that are like way more advanced than what kids can build today, all the other technology like on Earth is just normal and not advanced in any way.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but
like it doesn't seem like they have like internet on Earth even really.
It deals a little bit with the sort of hard sci-fi aspects of the technology, but it's actually pretty superficial. It's like the art is very consistent in the technology side, and is sort of showing like it sort of brings up all these ideas about radiation and everything, but then it treats them really simplistically and doesn't say anything interesting about the technological advancement, and the focus is entirely on the human condition and the sort of human exceptionalism. We're built for space, we'll evolve to deal with space, like we'll be fine in space. And it kind of skips over the fact that no, humans who stay in space for a long time are fucked up, and it like we can't get around that.
I mean, Hajime no Ippo does a similar thing with boxing, where they sort of offhandedly comment like, "Man, you'll get fucked up in the head if you get punched in the head too much," and like, "Oh no, is he punch drunk? Oh no," or "Oh no, did his retina get dislodged?" It could be, but no one ever does. It never happens.
Yep. But this
and
one
just
has
sort of,
like...
They just sort of like, mention it to it exists without it ever actually being a problem.
Yeah, like one side character dies of radiation poisoning because he had cancer from all the radiation in space.
And the guy's wife dies of space junk.
Yeah.
Smashing the spaceship.
But I guess the hard sci-fi elements of this are really simplistic to the point that it's actually just a human drama with a superficial space thing on top of it.
Right. They don't explain any of the sciencey bits, right, in any way.
Now, the human drama is interesting, but the moral pretty much seems to be that the people who are pushing the frontiers are kind of the people who have sort of made this arbitrary distinction between space and Earth and are really just trying to get away from something in their lives and kind of want to die and have a pretty, like, they want to go to Jupiter because they have a death wish. But then it doesn't.
But the thing is, the dad is the weirdest guy, right? Because he's almost like the crazy Bunta, character, right? From Initial D, if you don't know who that is. Or if you're Naruto, the guy who does the sexy no jutsu.
Oh,
right?
I forget his name.
The cool guy, right? He's that character, right? He's the Hughes from Fullmetal Alchemist, right? That's who the guy's dad is, and he's like the most badass astronaut. And he didn't want to go on the mission, but now he's leading the mission. And it's like, I don't think he has a death wish. It's like, I don't.
He doesn't.
But it's like he's still agreed to go on the mission, even though he knows everything. Like, he know everything, right?
But meanwhile, the other main guy, his crisis of faith is that I'm gonna go die alone in space. We're astronauts. Fuck it, let's go.
Yep.
And simultaneously, oh no, but now I like this girl. If I have feelings for her, it will compromise my badass, cool and alone, aloof. I'm gonna die alone in space aesthetic.
Yeah, but Dad's perfectly okay to leave Mom and his sons on Earth. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. So the human drama moral is actually kind of ambiguous, or at least kind of all over the place, because it doesn't have this strong moral of, see this guy, that's wrong. See this guy, that's right.
It's more like
make a distinction between them.
Yeah, it shows the person with their dilemma and the two options and the two moralities, and they choose one. But even though they choose one of them, they're not totally sold on it. So it's still ambiguous if what they chose is right or wrong. If they did the right thing or not. It's just like, well, they chose this one. We know what both the options were. Let's see what happens in another volume.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't super recommend this, actually, because it's kind of boring.
It's one of those. It's weird, though, right? Because it's one of those things where, like, if someone brings it up amongst anime, manga peoples, like, you'll only hear, like, really positive things about it. Like, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about this. I've only heard people say, oh, man, it's so good, or, oh, man, I've been really meaning to watch that because it's so good.
Now, I could say, if I had picked up this manga in, like, the 90s, like, if something like this just came out in the 90s, or before I had much wider access to anime, and especially to manga, this would have been so different from all the other manga I could read.
It's still different from a lot of mangas.
It
but
is.
There are some newer ones, like the aforementioned Space Brothers, that go into, like, similar territory, perhaps better.
Yeah, but I guess, like, there was a time when the average American anime fan would not run into a more slow-paced anime, because that was, even if that was available fan subbed, that is not what was being trafficked around in the fan subs. Like, no one would give it to you or recommend it to you. They were like the sort of inside business, like, oh, hey, check out this show. It's just about some people living their lives. Whoa.
Now, I know we've sort of described it with, like, a negative tone, but I don't want people to think that, like, we're giving this an F.
Oh, no. I'm giving this like a B.
Yeah, this is B. This is B territory. It's just not A territory.
Like, it's good.
It's like, if you gave me volume 2, I'd be like, I'd read it. But I don't think I'm going to pay money for volume 2, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of zone. Like, maybe if it was on sale, I'd be like, ooh, it's on sale. It's $5. We're getting that.
It's a manga that after I read it once, I would sell it or give it away. Like,
Yep.
I wouldn't keep it. It's not going to sit on the shelf next to Sanctuary.
Yeah, it's pretty big and takes up a lot of shelf space for being an omnibus type volume.
I think there's only 4 volumes total.
4 big ones total?
I think there's going to be 4 big ones.
Oh.
I don't think it's actually that long.
Who's published this big one? Is it Dark Horse?
Now I got to go do...
Just look at the side of the book, dumbass.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the
It is Dark
Wikipedia.
Horse. Dark
yeah,
Horse.
it's done. It's only 4 volumes.
Is it 4 Japanese volumes?
4 of these things.
4 of the big ones?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dark Horse is publishing the big ones. There's only going to be 3 more. That's not too bad, actually. I wonder if it actually has, like, an ending, like they try to go on the mission and die or something.
If this ends with the Jupiter mission, like, they all die, but they advance the frontier.
Okay, so that's something else I got a question of, right? It's a Jupiter mission, which I assume they've been to Mars already.
Yeah, they're already real fast and loose with time in this thing.
Yeah. So if you go to Jupiter, that's not a good place to go. I mean, it's basically just a gas giant of doom.
Well, they make this point about mining it for resources and using it as a staging point for further exploration.
Are you just going to chill out in orbit around Jupiter and drop mining equipment onto it?
Well, that's the thing. This has all the trappings of hard sci-fi, but yet it glosses over all the stuff I'm interested in.
Like, how the fuck are you going to go down there and do anything? I mean, if you even go near it, you'll probably just get crushed and stormed and red eyeball stormed and who knows what.
Well, thus my problem.
Gas destroyed. destroyed. It's not a place you can go near.
You could tell this exact
if
same story.
I mean, if your spaceship gets too close to it, you'll just get sucked in and destroyed. It's not a. I mean,
well, no, actually,
more
Scott. I mean, you're making the sort of amateur. It's the same people on Slashdot who are like, that couldn't work because I have a high school understanding of science and didn't read the article.
It could work, but they didn't cover any of this material, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that this might as well be set in Portugal during the 1400s and be about wooden ships.
Sure.
And it could be the exact same story.
That's absolutely right. And
but
what are they cleaning up in the ocean?
Fuck it, I don't know. Maybe they have some other job.
It would have to be more 20th century cleaning up sea mines. Left
yeah,
over from war.
But I guess it doesn't, the technology and the space part of
Catching giant squids because they destroy all the ships.
It's just weird for me to be able to say that a space-focused, space debris manga is actually really light on the space parts.
Yeah. And it takes place almost entirely in space. But you know what? It says a lot that I actually like the moments where they're like in Japan a lot more. Hanging with the family and the kid building the rockets. And, because when they're on Earth, that's when it's almost like a breath of fresh air. Like,
almost literally, because the characters are all kind of going crazy being in space because space sucks.
And he does a really good job of showing you like the contrast between like, the crampedness of space and, you're still in outer space, but you're on Earth.
Yeah.
Parts.
But like, here's an example. So it makes a deal about like in the beginning, you meet this adult looking woman and then you find out, oh, she's 12. She's just super tall because she was born in space. Like she was born on the moon.
And she can't go to Earth.
Yeah.
Because she get crushed.
And it's sort of making this...
I guess she definitely can't go to Jupiter.
This implicit point that this is the next frontier for humans and that is how humans will be. Like, we're evolving for space. The reality is, no, we're not. Like, you can't... If you're born on the moon, it's not just you can't go to Earth. You're fucked. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going to work out for you.
Now, if you want to talk about anime and manga with a similar message, right? The #1 of all time is Gundam, right? And even though Gundam is not even close to hard sci-fi, it is the softest, most fantastical, most ridiculous giant robot thing. It does that same message so much better.
Well, because Gundam pushes
Instead
it
of
further.
having some tall girl who was born in space, you have new type.
Yeah,
right?
They're not human. Like, they're not even close to human.
Right.
They're so different from humans.
And then in Gundam, I mean, for whatever else you want to say about any Gundam series, whichever one you pick, I've never seen one that does a bad job of contrasting the parts where they're in space and when they're on a planet or in a space station.
Even Gundam Seed does that really well, and that's kind of the pulpy Gundam.
There's always some kind of scene where like they're burning in the atmosphere going down, and they land, and then there's some other kind of scene where they take off in like a rocket to go back into space, and when they're in space, the Gundams, and everyone moves and does things totally differently in space than when they're on the Earth. Even the manga does an amazing job of this even too. So
I guess that's what's bothers me.
Planetes isn't even learning from the Gundam, which came many, many years before itself.
Things like Gundam, by being more fantastical in some elements, and they can sort of make the contrast of the human drama or the transhuman drama much more readily apparent and do much more interesting things. But something like Planetes is too close to reality, so it doesn't have enough contrast to work with, and simultaneously, despite being so close to reality, actually ignores a lot of the implicit things that come up if you're that close to reality.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the point of hard sci-fi is to teach some amount of real science to the audience, and they don't do any of that.
Like, don't bring up the bone density thing and then literally hand wave it and never talk about it again.
Exactly.
In a manga that's set in the near future. Like, you can't lampshade it that superficially.
So I think if you really need a manga to read and you've read all the best ones and maybe you read a lot of manga, you should definitely get this. But if you're just like going to read one manga this month, not this one.
Yeah. In fact, I almost want to read like a Gundam manga and then Pat Labor and then...
Just watch Pat Labor.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat Labor, I don't even know if there is a manga. I think there might be, but that's the thing where you want to watch the anime.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The patrons who are giving us at least $5, but possibly more in order of the amount of money they give us per month are, for this episode, Nicholas Brandau, Rebecca Dunn, John R. Nobbs II, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian Kuntz, Jess, Sam Cordery, Mechanical Mind, William Eisenrose. You expected the next name to be yours, but it was me, Dio. Clinton Walton, MyStady.com, Phil Ulrich, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Citroni, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Solverod, Rochelle Montanona, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Doug Schneider, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. I'm going to open up submissions for the February Q&A tomorrow morning because I want you to get all your questions in quick, and I'm going to announce the theme then. We may also, if we don't get enough questions, do something special on that episode. So stay tuned to ask your questions. Otherwise, I know we missed a couple of shows here and there because I keep flying around, with London work and everything. But after next week, when I'm in London, we pretty much have nothing that's going to disrupt Geek Nights for a while. Now, I know I always have weird stuff at the end, but I found something that I acquired quite some time ago as part of a package of similar things. This is from the days before even Napster. So I basically acquired this archive that was someone's entire music collection. And inside of it, there was something that I didn't really notice until many years later. And once I realized what its deal was, it's kind of special. I defy any of you to know what this is before I reveal in the forum. So if you recognize the thing that I am going to play about now, let me know in the forum because mad props. And also, how the hell did you encounter this thing?
Silent night, I am walking the road with a dead